we are. You know what? YouTube always takes just a minute to catch up. And it makes me look like I'm running late. So I got to start hitting the button at like 7:58, 7:59. Instead of waiting for 2000 to go live, because I don't do shit late. Come on now. Oh, that's for civilians with their half a clock. So anyway, good evening. It's Sunday night, it's 2000, and I'm Christopher Lowry on the Brushfire Mind. Let's talk about some shit. Now, I bet those of you that watch the show were pretty much expecting me to talk about a bunch of sex scandals and all that kind of crap. And quite frankly, to get the numbers up, it wouldn't be a bad idea. It's a hot topic right now. Everybody's falling apart. But before I hit the button and we go to the intro, let me just ask a couple questions. Lucas, Sharon, I see you guys in the chat room. Good to see you. Glad to have you here. Sharon, I apologize so much. We haven't had you on the show yet. We've been meaning to. But if you saw when we had Lucas on, we had some issues with the audio and the synchronization. And we've been having some more problems with the audio as I've been trying to upgrade the systems. And that was the next thing I was going to ask you. Lucas says I'm echoing, so let me get rid of these, and I just won't get to hear me talk tonight. Let me know if that fixed it. So, hopefully I just fixed that problem. Yeah, so I was echoing. We've had some issues with the audio. I thought I had fixed that one. The other issue we've had with the audio, I also think I fixed, and it looks like I'm still running strong. Let me know if it's not loud enough. Let me know if it's not loud enough or whatever's going on there. Let me just double check this. Okay, that should fix the echo, I think. But anyway, y'all let me know if the audio is unbearable. I think I fixed it. It should be pretty clear. Here's what I want to talk about tonight. I want to talk about the C word. That's right, conservatism. And most especially, I want to talk about it in a particular context. There are some other YouTube personalities that I'm particularly fond of, and I'll get into them in a minute, but that's the topic tonight. We're going to talk about the word conservative and what it means now. So, y'all fasten in, and let's do this. All right. So I was watching some YouTube videos earlier, trying to get a read on, kind of some of the stuff that's going on. And there's a few go-tos that I like. I'll watch some Lacey Green. I'll watch some. I almost forget that the woman's name is Christy Winters because I'm so used to Baron calling her Fisty Splinters. And it's the bitch. But anyway, I'll watch some of these lefties. I'll watch the videos coming out of Slate and YouTube and see what they're saying. And then I'll watch some of the responses and criticisms. And guys, I'm telling you, even just in the sphere that I am interested in, there's way more content than any of us can ever digest and still have a day job. Or in my case, run a business and go to school full time. I mean, y'all, I run ObamacareInGeorgia.com, and I'm a 15 credit hour full-time student on campus right now. Plus this. Plus writing, I'm writing scripts to develop a 4-hour channel so that we can make some films. And I think I'll do a separate live stream, not one of the usual Sunday nights. I'll do a separate live stream and kind of tell you guys about some of the types of stories and scripts, that we're working on. But something struck me as I was watching some of the commentary on the lefty videos that I was checking out. There's several guys out there that consider themselves to be on the left, sort of left of center. Sargon of Akkad, Styx Hexenhammer. Styx calls himself a minarchist, and I like that word. I think that's kind of where I fall, but I tend to call myself a conservative. Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, those guys, they all tend to consider themselves left of center because they're all kind of socially liberal. Dave Rubin, for example, he's completely out now. Dave Rubin is gay and married, and I get the sense that like I wouldn't say that he would oppose gay marriage if he weren't gay and married. I mean, there's a lot of hypothetical in there, but I get the sense that, he's got more of a "why don't you just leave me alone to do my thing" kind of position on that. That's kind of what he says it is, and that makes a lot of sense. Like me, for example, I do not support gay marriage, but I do not support gay marriage in the way that most people do not support picking watermelons, or what have you. It's a thing that happens. It's a thing that's out there, and it's not something that I'm personally interested in or concerned with. If two fellows want to go get married, good on them. Let them do what they want to do. Let me take a little bit of a tangent. I have some people who are close to me who are gay, and back when the Supreme Court decision came down and they said gay marriage is legal in every state now, I was very, very troubled by that decision, and my gay friends were. A lot of them were thrilled that it had gone that way, and I tried to explain to them why they shouldn't be. And I'm not trying to get down on any of them. I'm not trying to badmouth any of them. I can understand being blinded by the positive consequence of negative action. If you're walking down the street and you find a $100 bill on the side of the road, how it got there is suddenly not a great concern. And the truth of the matter is, you can't just hold it up and say, "Hey, did somebody drop this?" Because how many liars are going to say yes? If 20 people raise their hand and say, "It was me, it was me, it was me," well, one of them might not be lying, but how do you tell? Did they sign it? Did they remember the serial number? Here's the thing about the gay marriage thing on that. When the Supreme Court said you can get married gay, you can do the whole gay marriage thing, and I'm very carefully not referring to this as the passage of law, because it is being treated like the passage of law, but law is not supposed to affirmatively affect people. The law should never have an affirmative effect. I'm using the word affirmative, not positive, on purpose. Law should not prescribe actions to be taken. It should only describe actions to be prohibited. Law is prohibitive by nature. So when the Supreme Court said you could do the gay marriage thing wherever you want, they missed something. They missed something very, very important. The judicial branch is not permitted to legislate, and legislation is prohibitive by nature. It is not the case that I can walk around and carry a gun because the law says I can walk around and carry a gun. The way the Constitution works is we assume that you have the right to do everything that you could possibly ever want or hope to do. And then we have the Bill of Rights, which says, and these particular things, which we assume, among many other things, to be your God-given rights, must not be restricted by the law. At least that's how the first 10 amendments worked. Now, some Democrats got their hands on it later and gave us prohibition. And it never works. So what's the problem with gay marriage? Because it was done incorrectly, because the judiciary legislated from the bench to create the legal authority for homosexuals to engage in matrimony, that fact is extraordinarily vulnerable, not to the repeal of a law by the Congress, but to the very simple challenge of any court. All it takes is one judicial activist judge to shut it down. So, that we're thrilled about it and have gotten married since that. I have several and thrilled for it. Sort of. I have a couple of customers that got married to a same-sex partner who had a job, and so now they have their health insurance spouse. I lost a customer. But hey, mazel tov. I hope they're happy. I just... Shitburger judicial. Let's be real. This on what we now mistakenly are right. What happened? Wait a minute. This isn't law. There is no reasonable interpretation taken by a honest an action made by the judicial branch. See, that's the problem that I have with that. And I apologize for kind of stumbling off on this. Dave Rubin is gay and married. And so, of course, he's going to be a fan of that in particular. All right. You guys are telling me that my sound is going in and out, so I'm going to change something real quick. Let me know if that fixed it. Is that much better? I just switched over to the backup microphone. Hopefully that fixes everything. Okay, good. Well, then I guess somebody owes me some money because this new sound rig is just falling apart and I can't use the damn thing. So we'll use this microphone. That's why I set up a backup. Okay. So what I was saying, and I'll just summarize to get back on point, and then I'll get back to the original topic. I have a problem with the whole gay marriage thing as it was done by the Supreme Court because that is the judiciary branch legislating from the bench, which means that the activity is vulnerable to any basic, simple judicial activism. All it takes is one circuit court judge saying, raising an objection, and it's gone. Now, what happens to my buddies who are gay and married, or my customers who are gay and married, if suddenly the Supreme Court decision has to be overturned because
it wasn't done within the confines of the authority of the Supreme Court, which it was not. They wrote a law, and that is the province of the legislature. It's vulnerable, and that's terrifying to me. Not because I don't have a real opinion. I don't have a real position on gay marriage, but I definitely have a position on the constraint of government, on our government operating within the constraints of the three branches and the checks and balances that are set to prevent things like the executive branch interpreting the law. So, okay, I'm just way the hell off of the original topic, but let's talk about that for a second. The executive branch does not have the authority to interpret the law. So just like what I was talking about a moment ago, breaking out of the checks and balances, and you know what, guys, I'm gonna have to do a whole nother video on this now that I'm thinking about it. This is a hell of a rabbit trail. So the judicial branch and the gay marriage thing, that is legislation being done from the bench. The executive branch, that would be the execution and enforcement of the law. James Comey testified that Hillary Clinton was extremely careless with the emails. And under UCIT 18, the standard is gross negligence. And under the law, the definition of gross negligence is extreme carelessness. So James Comey took it upon himself, even though he is subordinate to the executive, the branch of enforcement, he took it upon himself to interpret. As the FBI director, he is a police officer. He's a law enforcement officer, a law enforcement official. Now, if you let's say you've got a 17-year-old kid, he's smart, he's sharp. A cop catches him smoking a joint, and he catches him with a little bit of weed. The officer's job is not to interpret that the law means that a diminutive amount of weed is not sufficient to arrest the kid. It is that officer's job to arrest the kid because the kid is in violation of the law as prescribed. Now, certainly, we expect and tolerate a certain amount of judicious individual judgment call on the part of the police officer, but that is not within the prescription of his duties. It is the judge's profession. It is the jurisdiction of the court to interpret the law. Law is interpreted on a case-by-case basis. That is, in many, many ways. That is why we have a justice system. That is why we have the courts. One goes into courts to argue one's position when the law is ill-described. And in fact, it has been the case that when the law is found to be unnecessarily ambiguous, that's a grounds on which a judge can dismiss a case. If the law is not adequately concrete, adequately specific, that can be all the reason a judge needs to say, "You're out of here, mister." But then it is the legislature that writes the law. The cop can't decide that the pot's not illegal. The judge can't decide that the pot is not illegal. The legislature does that. James Comey had the gall to interpret the law. And one of the things that just benumbs me on that is that nobody called him out on it, or that there was no consequence for it. It was quite clear when Trey Gowdy questioned him that the evidence of Hillary Clinton's guilt was overwhelming, but James Comey interpreted the law such that he decided it required the formation of intent. And I'm not going to rehash that. Go back and watch my video, The Leaky Left. I made a very, very hard case against. I didn't need to make a case against Hillary Clinton there. James Comey made a perfect case against Hillary Clinton, and the statement that James Comey gave in his when he was testifying to Congress testifying to the Intelligence Committee was entirely damning and conclusively damning. And his exoneration of Hillary rested entirely on his incorrect interpretation of the law, which is a departure from his position within the three-branch checks and balances. And all of that for the last, 20 minutes has been a drastic departure from what I actually wanted to talk about tonight. I actually want to hear, I want to get some of your thoughts on this. So you've got guys like Sargon of Akkad, Styx Hexenhammer, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin. Who else is out there that's like that? Philip DeFranco, and there's several others that are very fair, very even-handed. And most of them, Styx being kind of an exception. I'd say Styx seems to be a little more right of center. But certainly Sargon, Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and quite frankly, Philip DeFranco is probably the furthest left of all of the ones that I'm talking about right now. And he is very fair, very even-handed, produces very solid content. Frankly, Philip DeFranco is the guy that I go to when I want as close to an unbiased reporting of the data as possible. Phil has a tendency to say, this is the data as I see it, and this I am making a statement now that is my biased opinion. I'm not familiar with Mark Dice, Lucas. I'll have to go check him out. And by the way, all the guys that I've mentioned, I've linked their channels in the description. If any of them that you haven't checked out yet, definitely pop down in the description, check out their channels, and subscribe to them. Who knows? Maybe they'll come across this, and I'll get a bump in my subscription. InfoWars, David. Yeah. Okay, fair enough, Sharon. Hey, I won't lie. I like to watch Alex Jones every now and then because he's entertaining as hell. But in particular, the guys I'm talking about, Sargon, Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, so on and so forth, these guys all consider themselves to be to the left, slightly to the left of center. And Sargon, he's British. And I think he lives just outside of London. He's popped over to the States a few times for conventions and whatnot. But Sargon of Akkad is British. And Carl Benjamin is his real name. I'm not outing him, I'm not doxing him. That's already out there. But anyway, Sargon, he supports the welfare state in Britain, and he's pro socialized medicine in Britain. But frankly, apart from those two positions, I've never heard the guy utter a syllable that didn't sound like it would be moderate, right-leaning, moderate centrist on the spectrum as we think about it in America. Now, in fairness, the left-right thing is a little different outside of the United States. Um, in a lot of countries, they like to say that the U.S. doesn't have a left and a right; they have a right and a further right. And frankly, the truth of the matter is, the U.S. has a conservative point, and then we have left wing authoritarians, right wing authoritarians, and they're all basically just shill bait neocons. Um, yeah, y'all are going to hear me talk about this a lot for the next year and a half, because going into next year it is rhino hunting season. The best thing we can do for this country right now is to assist the Donald by primarying and eliminating every single member of Congress. Vote. I know only a third of them. It's a third of them, right? Yeah, only a third of them are up for re-election next year. But vote against the incumbent. Every single one of them. I will say, as much as I want to see the rhinos gone, I'm not willing to vote for a Democrat against a rhino yet. But anyway, so these other YouTube personalities that consider themselves to be on the left, frankly, I don't think they're not liberals in the way that we think of that word as Americans. When these guys say liberal, you'll often hear them caveat it with the phrase classical liberal. And essentially, these guys they're basically constitutional conservative, constitutional originalists. I mean, obviously, Sargon's not an American. Styx is American. Dave Rubin is American. Tim Pool is an American. These guys consider themselves to be left of center. They're essentially constitutional absolutists that are okay with gay marriage. I'm a constitutional originalist, and I'm perfectly comfortable with gay marriage, and quite frankly, because there's not a letter of it in the Constitution. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody should give a shit, I should say. The business of marriage is contract. You talk about marriage, you were talking about a contract between 2 or 3 parties. And when I say 2 or 3 parties, I mean that atheists have a contract between themselves and their spouse, while theists are making a contract between themselves, their spouse, and their deity. You can expand that further and argue probably that the families and the parishioners and the congregation and blah 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 are all part of the contract as well. But at the root of it, atheists are in a 2-party contract when they're married, and theists are in a 3-party contract when they're married, because God is the third party. He is the third signatory in your contract. I won't say political labels are meaningless. I will, however, say that the current use of existing political labels has come to be twisted so that they don't mean the things that they should mean. Or at least they don't mean the things that we think they mean when we use them. For example, we've started hearing, because of the whole alt-right thing, we started hearing people talk about the alt-left. Which is, of course, ludicrous. There is no alt-left. The left wing in America is apparently uniformly insane. I just cannot I just cannot think of another reason that Hillary Clinton got so close to winning the election. Electoral college landslide, yes, but it took the electoral college overcoming the voting power of California and New York. Because hey, and y'all go check me on this, but nearly 50% of all votes cast for Hillary Clinton, who apparently had more votes than Donald Trump, nearly 50% of all of her votes were not cast in 2 states. They were cast in 3 cities. Nearly 50% of her votes were cast in 3 cities: New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. Without any one of those cities, it was an absolute, just devastating landslide the other direction. I'm a little disappointed to see that Legion's not in here tonight, but I'm glad to see the rest of y'all here. Anyway. So, Sargon, Dave Rubin, and Tim Pool, and Philip Franco. Quite frankly, I think these guys consider themselves, they call themselves left-leaning, and they even tend to refer to the libtards that we have, that those of us have such a problem with. They even tend to refer to them as leftists, in kind of the same way that you hear people refer to Islamists as being separate from Muslims. But they shy away from that word conservative. Now, Sargon, being a conservative over there, is a very different creature. The word conservative in this country, as a political position, is supposed to refer to one's attachment to the conservation of the original founding document, the Constitution. I highly recommend that everybody get a copy of the Constitution and hang it up in front of their toilet. And because that's just, anytime you take 5 to 20 minutes, maybe you had tacos, read it. Read a little bit of it. Read the whole thing all the way through. Read a particular part of it. Give it some thought. Make it something that's part of your mind. Now, I don't, as much as I would like to, I don't expect everybody to be like me and quote it section and article, but I sure would like to see a lot more people at least know what the hell is in it. Yep. That's pretty much right. Well, Rod, you forgot that it does, in fact, in Article 3, Section 3, under the definition and formation of the judiciary, define a crime, one crime, a single crime, which is treason. Like, for example, abandoning your post in the middle of the night and wandering off into the deserts of Afghanistan, leaving your battle buddies vulnerable and consequently dying in the eventual search for you, and for which the only penalty is death. Now, it also prescribes that treason requires 2 witnesses. And it defines treason as the provision of aid and comfort to the enemy, and so on and so forth. Oh, man. Oh. But it'd be nice if people just knew what it was. But these guys, they seem afraid to use the word conservative. And it is because in our popular culture today, and more frighteningly, in our schools today, and it's not just today, I can clearly remember in the late 80s and early 90s taking history classes or civics classes in a public school, and the teacher was always, the teachers teaching those classes, they like to say things like, your parents are probably right wing Republicans, conservatives. Older people tend to be more conservative, more right wing, tend to be Republicans, because they're afraid of change. They're afraid of anything different. They're afraid of anything that's, even if it's going to make the world better, they're afraid of things being different. Which of course is, I mean, just stunning horseshit. But what do you do? Oh, well, for me, we're homeschooling. That's what we do. I'm not. I just cannot put up with some lefty libby trying to teach my children that the last thing in the world that they need to do is to listen to mommy and daddy. No, I'm sorry. Shit right up your nose. I will raise my children, and that is just not something that I'm passing off to you fucks. So why is conservatism a dirty word? Because ridicule is man's most powerful weapon. So saith Saul Alinsky. If you haven't read Rules for Radicals, I highly recommend that you find a free PDF version that you can download. I would look for an archive.is version of it. So, make sure that you, as to the greatest extent possible, that no one in support of this work receives a penny of your money when you read Rules for Radicals, but you should read it. And frankly, we should assimilate it and make use of it. I mentioned earlier that we're going to be making some videos, and we're going to start trying to actually produce some films and some television series kind of material. And one of the things we're going to be doing with that is taking a page out of the Rules for Radicals. We're going to ridicule the enemy. And we are going to make the enemy live up to their own standards. We're going to demand that they conform to their own rules. Something they're notoriously bad at. Especially in the age of virtue signaling. One of the things that Saul Alinsky was very clear on is that America is a virtuous nation. It is a good and virtuous nation. And if you want to defeat good and virtuous people, the way to do that is to force their virtue to consume them. At the end of the day, what he was really suggesting is that you force them to work so hard at staying virtuous that they either lose interest or become overwhelmed by it, and show that they can't live up to their own standards. That's just something we're going to have to do. We're going to have to start doing that to them. We cannot keep rolling over the way that the right has been for so long. I mean, Donald Trump is not a Republican. He is not a legitimate conservative. I like the Donald. I do. I really, really do. But to argue that he is the salvation of the Republican Party, no. The Donald is, in my considered opinion, probably the salvation of the United States, precisely because his administration is so controversial that it will have caused irreparable harm to both of the pseudo parties. Now, when I say pseudo parties, the Republicans and Democrats, the establishment Republican and Democrat party, they are not different. There is no clear line of demarcation between them any longer. They are all, they haven't repealed Obamacare. They haven't repealed Obamacare because they don't want to. The Republicans don't want to repeal Obamacare. We, like Legion likes to call them, the Republicans have become the Washington Generals. They are there so that the Democrat Harlem Globetrotters have an opponent so they can put on a show. We have a one-party system in this country. It's a little less shall we say, overt and no, not dangerous. It's more dangerous because it's more insidious. I've explained this before. The North Korean system, they have a two-party electoral process. They have a huge election. Everybody go in a huge election, and they vote for the People's Labor Party. There's an opposition party, and you're not allowed to vote for it. I mean, you can end up in jail if you're caught voting for the opposition party. And it's not a secret ballot, so they're going to find out. But you do get to go and vote. That's a thing you do, so that you can go and you're given essentially the opportunity to support Kim Jong-un. And I'm sorry, guys. My wife has got this for sure, but I can hear my 2-year-old upstairs is pitching a temper tantrum. Let me know in the comments if y'all can hear that coming over. I'll rewatch the show later and listen for it, but let me know if y'all are hearing that. So yes, Lucas, there's essentially only one name on the ballot. Now in this country, the expectation is that a certain number of crazy people like us are going to vote for the wrong guy, like Trump. But in this last election, that the expectation was that they knew who the wrong guy was going to be. It wasn't going to be Trump, and that there was no way for him to win. That's plainly evident in the way that Hillary ran her campaign. She didn't campaign. All she had was basically the incident where oh yeah, I keep hot sauce in my purse. I'm not pandering. Shut up. Just shut up, bitch. So I put this out there for you guys, and Lucas, I appreciate your comment. The boy shut up. I'll keep that in mind. I'll have to check and make sure the door was closed. Yep, the commies. Yep. Rod points out that the commies also had elections and 2 completely sold out candidates. Yeah, exactly. And I think that and don't get me wrong, Donald Trump's a fantastic president so far. I hear a lot of complaints and not unreasonable that the legislature hasn't accomplished anything this year, and that's true. And that's why we need to vote against the incumbents and get rid of these rhino shitbags. They're not going to get tax reform done before Christmas. It's not going to happen because they don't want to do it. They're going to talk a big game, but they don't want to do it. And I'm a little concerned that they're not adequately frightened by the power of the ballot anymore. And guys, please vote these guys. Please help us vote these sons of bitches out. Because as much as I love to pull my trigger, that is not how I want to fix this country. I would rather we fix this country without bloodshed. I really would. You know, Sharon, I like Steve Bannon um for a lot of stuff, but I I just don't quite truck with his whole Trumpism without Trump thing. It it's 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 weird. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something going on there that bothers me. It seems it seems a little too spotlight grabby, a little too pandery, maybe. I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me. But I do like a lot of what Bannon has to say, but eh, I just there's something there that I don't like the way I don't like the way it sits. But anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. I'm sorry the new and improved audio system is not so much improved as it is new. Uh, I guess I'll stick with this audio rig for now. Um, and yeah, so the thing I wanted to talk about, the C word, the word conservative being a dirty word. I guess we kind of rambled off of that, but uh, I got some good ideas, I think, for some content that I can work on developing for you guys. So it's been it's been real, and I will see you next week. Make sure you okay. I actually know that every single one of you that's commenting right now is already subscribed, and I appreciate that. But for those of you who are tuning in later and not catching it live, if this is your first time watching the Brushfire Mind, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification. And you guys in the live audience, go ahead and hit the bell notification too. Uh, I do pop up live randomly throughout the week sometimes, and that's how you'll catch me on those. You're more likely to just catch it after it's published, but definitely subscribe, hit the bell notification. We could use your love on Patreon. Go to Patreon and just search for the Brushfire Mind. There's a link in the description to that. And please, please, please like and share this video everywhere. And yeah, Sharon, that's right. Don't forget to give a thumbs up. And I've been seeing more and more thumbs ups. I mean, 5, 6, 8, 10 here and there. Got to get these numbers up. We're at 90, 91 subscribers now. I need to crack that 100. So help me out with that, guys. I love you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. And until then, remember, if you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the evening. But if you set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Good night.